Do you think there's any potential that a spot ETF for Bitcoin, while good for American investors, is potentially not good for Bitcoin? And let me explain where I'm coming from with this. A wall of money, as we've talked about, could come in for Bitcoin. But ideally, Bitcoin is decentralized. We want mining to be distributed around the world, but we also want ownership to be distributed around the world. We don't want to have large pockets of centralized Bitcoin. Is it 40% of Bitcoin mining now is in the US? Did we know
I think
that?
so, yeah.
Now, when 40% was in China, people talked about this a lot. Now it's 40% of the US, people are talking about it less.
I'm not sure it's that high.
I think it might be. Can we find that out, Danny? Mm-hmm. But either way.
Right, you don't want centralized pockets of people holding other people's Bitcoin.
Yeah, but also, would it be, if Bitcoin is, as people believe, will be the future money of the world, I don't know the answer to this, but is there a risk, not only to Bitcoin, but would it create a disparity?
For Cambridge estimate, it's 37.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there
as of December 21?
Yes, it's probably higher now. Is there a risk in that there is a disproportionate held by America, say 50? I wouldn't even know what the concentration of ownership. I wonder if you can find that out.
That'd be hard.
If a wall of money came into the US, you could talk about a large, very significant percentage of Bitcoin is held in America by Americans or American institutions. And I wonder if that's ultimately good, or it doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Well, the United States is the largest economy in the world today. A lot of the world's wealth is here in the United States. Mm-hmm. So I think that's more just emblematic of how, different economies are kind of dispersed today.
But that has negative, there's negative consequences for other nations. The high price of the dollar at the moment, and dollar being the global reserve currency, that causes problems for other countries, not just dollarized countries.
That's the exorbitant privilege.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So I just wondered, if an ETF brought a wall of money, I don't know. There'll probably be some smarter people than me who can write in and understand this and say it doesn't matter. But I just wonder if that creates some kind of disproportionate
if too many
power.
Americans hold Bitcoin.
Not too many Americans hold Bitcoin, but too much of the total amount of Bitcoin is held by. I think every American should hold Bitcoin, but I want every Bangladeshi to hold Bitcoin and every Indian and every English person.
And I think the point is that it wouldn't be every American holding Bitcoin. It'd be one company holding Bitcoin and everyone has exposure.
And who has that exposure? Is it just rich people again get exposure?
Right.
I want the little, we want to close the wealth divide. One of the areas that I'm really interested in, we've been trying to introduce more progressives into our show, because it doesn't matter whether you're conservative, libertarian, or progressive. Bitcoin is getting exposed to a wider group of people, and a lot of FUD comes from the progressives. So we've been trying to get more progressives on the show to defeat the FUD. And one of the areas that you can use that is actually, progressives hate the wealth divide. They blame billionaires, but actually what they don't understand is a lot of the policies they advocate for makes the wealth divide worse. One of the things about Bitcoin is reducing the wealth divide. So ideally, Bitcoin would reduce the wealth divide, but would an ETF be counterproductive to that? Because it exposes, who uses an ETF product? Is it people with money already?
It's retail investors. That's who this would benefit. In my opinion, a spot Bitcoin ETF, the biggest benefit would be for the retail investor.
Well, what is the demographic of retail investors? Is it middle class? Is it middle to upper class? Is it? I don't.
It's everyone that's not an accredited investor.
But who's in that retail class of not accredited investor? Because
just the normal people.
But normal people can be anything from lower,
it's
low
a mix.
to middle. But I don't know that mix.
It's wage earners. It's mostly people who have a job that comes with retirement benefits and 401ks.
Yeah, that would be an interesting demographic.
So it could be everything from a school teacher that makes $30,000-$40,000 a year. It could be someone who.
But they can already buy Bitcoin.
You can. So absolutely. So you can buy Bitcoin directly through going to an exchange. You can go to a famous Bitcoin meetup. You don't need an ETF to buy Bitcoin. But the problem the challenge with that is that in order to understand how to safely navigate through an exchange to buy Bitcoin today, you have to do some research. And there's a lot of landmines out there. There's a lot of frauds in this space. If you don't understand just how the technology works, if you lose your keys, like you're screwed. And so for some people who want to go down that path to understand how this works, they should be able to buy Bitcoin directly and self-custody. So this is for everybody who's not willing to do that. Or a lot of people, when they make investments, they do so through their financial advisors. They have separate money that's set aside. It's their savings. It's what they invest to protect their purchasing power. And they have professionals who have a fiduciary responsibility to oversee those funds. And so this opens up an opportunity for that money that's set aside in retirement funds, managed through brokerages, to invest that directly in Bitcoin. So if you want to buy Bitcoin today, you can't do it through your financial advisor. If you go to your financial advisor and say, I've been reading about Bitcoin and I want to allocate, part of my savings to this. Can you go make that for me? They say, we can't help you with that. I can't even talk to you about it. I'm not allowed to. You have to go do that on their own.
But isn't that a good thing? That we encourage people to do the work. We encourage people to understand what Bitcoin is, to understand what a node is, to understand private keys. If we make it too easy, do we potentially risk weakening Bitcoin?
I think in a strong and a healthy economy, you have many options and you allow the individual to pick which option is most appropriate for them. So what about,
Come on, we're all lazy. We'll end up picking the easy option.
Well, not everybody. I mean, you didn't. I didn't.
I didn't have the choice.
And when it comes to spot Bitcoin ETFs in the United States, we're behind because there are ETFs trading all over the world today. So the US typically is the first to bring new innovative products to market, but when it comes to Bitcoin, we're not. And so we have spot Bitcoin ETFs that are trading in Canada, in Germany, Switzerland, and many other places. And we can look at what those demographics look like. And today there have been no reported instances of hacks or thefts or things going wrong.
Oh no, I understand.
Concerns.
I understand that, but at the same time, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Thank you, Andreas. It's a very important flag for Bitcoin. We talk about that a lot.
I agree.
We talk about managing private keys. Now, look, I empathize with what you're saying. My dad, there is zero chance he could buy, store, and protect his private keys. If you listen, Dad, I'm really sorry, but you're rubbish. He can barely use a remote control. So I get it. And
there are going to be people who either don't have the means, don't have the capabilities, or don't have the time or the interest.
But the solution for my father is that I do it for him. And I manage his private keys.
But you can't manage everybody's private keys.
No, but I can do my father's. I manage my children's private keys, and they're gradually being educated. And at some point, I'll hand their private keys to them. But I'm only challenging you because this is what other people will bring up. I see the benefits of both sides. But whilst we want to advocate for a strong economy and advocate for the expansion of Bitcoin, also we should be advocating for a strong, decentralized, robust Bitcoin and a community that manages its private keys. And I worry that an ETF warps some of that.
Well, and
that is somebody knowing my net wealth will take a massive leap if there's an ETF approved.
Yeah. Well, again, in a strong economy, you have lots of different options. That also includes lots of different Bitcoin ETF options. I think it would be detrimental if you only had one.
Yeah,
if only one company moved forward. I think there should be, and there's been 16 companies in the US issuers who have applied for a spot Bitcoin ETF. So you want many different options. You want strong disclosures so investors can make those decisions. And for those, and this could be the first step for a lot of people. It's like going and managing your own private keys, that's like swimming in the ocean. Well, a lot of people are afraid of the ocean because they can't see, they don't know, but they're more comfortable getting in a swimming pool. So like the Bitcoin spot ETF is like getting in a swimming pool. You get comfortable with the water. And then once you're comfortable and you start learning about it, then maybe they'll be more comfortable jumping in the ocean and managing their own private keys. But I think it is important that we have many different options for many different ranges of people because we are a very diverse economy. And again, the government coming in and saying you can't have this or you can't have that, that's not the role of the regulator.
That's fair.
And we need to ensure that they are operating within their mandates and their authority, because if that goes unchecked, that can have significant consequences for society.
Being the first approved ETF has a massive advantage.
Absolutely. We saw that with the Bitcoin futures
Yeah.
ETFs.
Or I can't remember who the first one was, but I know everyone which followed it. When you compared the trading volumes, they were significantly.
It was
lower.
over $1 billion.
Yeah. So, do you think when we finally get to the point where one is approved, they will have to approve them all at the same time?
I sincerely hope that the SEC is organized enough to have a fair process in place to say, okay, the industry's been working for a decade. There's 16 companies who have tried to do this. We need to come up with a process to ensure that we do this in a fair way and we don't create a Bitcoin ETF monopoly.
Because that is the risk.
And so one of our advisory board members is Paul Atkins, who was an SEC commissioner. And we had the opportunity to talk to him. And he was there when the first gold ETFs were brought to market. And it was a similar kind of situation where there was one company who had been working for years to bring one to market. And then several years later, there were a few more who went, and just the way that the timelines worked out, it was one of those companies who kind of came in at the tail end and they were going to be first. And Paul said, wait, we can't just let this company go first when there's another company who's been working for years with us to get all the infrastructure in place. And so they came up with the process to bring them out in a fair way. So I sincerely hope when this moves forward, there is a process to ensure it's done in an equitable way for the issuers.
Well, if somebody wants to know more about this
is a critical on-ramp. So in 2013, a critical on-ramp was unleashed, and that was Coinbase. We saw the Coinbase effect. 2013 was a massive bull market for the industry because before there was Coinbase, you had to go to like Mt. Gox to buy Bitcoin, which was not a great place.
Local Bitcoins,
or you had to go to like a sketchy Bitcoin meetup and like do this whole dance in person. Definitely not the safest way to do anything. So this could be the ETF will have another effect. It's a way to open up an on-ramp. So the more on-ramps, the more ways we have for people to get exposure to Bitcoin, the better. I mean, it's the same thing with...
I'm still going to challenge that. I think the more ways we have people to access and hold private keys, the better.
But you got to meet people where they are too, because that is a big leap for a lot of people. And it's putting a lot of expectations and the same expectations on everybody. And I think we've got to meet people where they are if we want them to go on this journey with us.
I still challenge it, but like I understand what you're saying, but I still challenge it. But okay, fair enough. So I'm just conscious of time. If people want to learn more about this, where would you send them to?
So this paper is available for free download on our website at digitalchamber.org. This is one very specific example where I think we've been able to really highlight where this industry is being treated differently. But this issue is happening across the entire federal government. You're seeing it in AML laws. You're seeing it in the tax laws. You're seeing it in a lot of the legislation pending before Congress today. I think these policy fights for Bitcoin, this is the fight of my generation. And I think it's absolutely important that we as Bitcoiners and people who care about this technology understand these political fights, these legal fights, because if we get the policy wrong, it can totally skew our future, and it's going to have an impact on how people have access to this technology. So we're really fighting for fair access so everybody can participate in this peaceful opting out of the central economic regime. And you see this in all areas of law. And this is a very significant undertaking for any organization. But that really is the purpose of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, to be on the ground, to understand these legal fights, to understand these policy fights, and to fight for the absolute best laws possible for the industry.